Hey, welcome everybody. This is your host of Knowledge to Profit podcast. My name is BECK, and I'm joined today with some of my favorite event planners on a more or less group call. So it's not a traditional interview episode. And we are going to discuss some of the best practices when it comes to either planning your live events or rescheduling your existing live events and going live or virtual, if you will, these days. And this thing may be evergreen for a while, so I'm just gonna date it. This is really beginning of April 2020, and we are about a month into this crazy COVID-19 crisis. So all of us are dealing with this and pivoting our businesses on the fly. So I'm sure this is going to be some really good, helpful information. So first of all, if you ladies want to go ahead and introduce yourself. So, and just introduce yourself, what company you're with, and what clients do you serve as far as the scale, small, medium, large events. And just give us a little bit of a background so everybody knows who you are. And I'm just gonna moderate it, so because I'm not sure how everybody's on the screen. But Shay, would you like to start first, since I have you on the top left here?
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everybody. Shay here, and I'm the owner of Grace and Ease Productions. I support 6- and 7-figure speakers, coaches, and experts in creating powerful and profitable live events. The events that I support are somewhat in the transformational personal development business space. And it tends to range anywhere from about 100 attendees, and I've done up to 600 attendees live. And they are usually 3-day live events. The live events are what is known as sales or enrollment events, where the speaker is looking to support and leverage their business by making a sale during the event.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Shay. Thanks for taking the time. And next up, Sherry.
Hi, Mira. Sherrie Sokolowski, owner of SLS Event Planning and Consulting. And I'd like to really refer to myself as a strategic event planner, because I like to work with people who are doing events for the first time and help them strategize so that they can make the best profit, best ROI when they host their first live event. My size of events are usually anywhere from a high end of 10 to 15 people in the room, up to 600, 700, 800 in the room. It's been a couple of events I did where there was about 1,000 to 1,800 people in the room. And most of my clientele come from the entrepreneurial industry of online, offline marketing. And their main goal is to help and serve their clients in the industry to better grow their businesses as well. So it's all walks of life. It could be chiropractors, lawyers, doctors, online marketers, digital marketers. So it's really anyone within the entrepreneurial small business industry.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Sherry. And next, DeANNA.
Hi, everyone. I'm DeANNA Rogers. I work with Boost Events. I've been in the event space for about 15 years. I started in the real estate space, and we're kind of more now in the corporate digital marketing space. We still do real estate events. Our sweet spot is kind of all over the map. We do about 40, well, normally, besides this year, we normally do about between 40 to 45 events a year. And they range from anywhere from like a 50-person mastermind to our largest show, which a lot of people may know as Traffic and Conversion Summit, which this year is going to be 10,000 attendees. So such a big range of what we do. And it's in all niches. It's basically real estate, digital marketing. We have bookkeepers. We have personal development. We have women's brands. So there's just all types of businesses that we focus with. Our biggest, I guess, strength is that we can kind of do everything with our team. So basically, once you tell us a date and basically tell us what you want, I mean, our team goes out and handles the logistics, we handle the sponsors, we handle the on-site management, we handle the sales, we handle every part of the event. So that's kind of where our sweet spot is. And again, I mean, we do a ton of them. This has been tough, not gonna lie. we've probably dropped about 18 events between now and July. So it's kind of tough, but I feel the swing picking back up, and learning some new virtual event space and really starting to hone in on those skills. And so, you know, growing and developing with everyone else. So I'm just really pleased that you invited me to be here with these lovely ladies.
Of course, yeah, I'm glad to have you. And it sounds like we are all in the same place where we are pivoting our businesses and trying to figure it out on the fly like everybody else. So, Linda.
Hi, so great to be here. Linda Cain with Blue Diamond Event Management. And I've been in the entrepreneurial coaches, speakers, authors space for about 16 years now. And I come out of nonprofit and corporate and medical fields. So I have tapped back into those areas. They sort of came out, they actually reached out to me when this happened 3.5 weeks ago. And so I've tapped back into those, and we're doing a lot of, our pivot has been really virtual. We've been doing virtual before, and we were doing a lot of live streaming with our clients and using live stream platform already. And we were already using Zoom meetings for a lot of our clients, but really expanding on that. And normally we do about 28 to 36 events a year, and specializing in not only fulfillment events, some sales and enrollment events as well that are 3 days, but a lot of the fulfillment events, retreats, international programs, international retreats. So kind of like once a 3-day event is done, then there's still work to be done with the fulfillment and taking care of the clients and keeping your program going. So we have a client care division as well as our live event division. And now we have our virtual event division. So we're having a lot of fun over here. And like you, DeANNA, really learning, trying to keep up with, our clients are using StreamYard, BeLive, and Zoom primarily. And just my team and I trying to keep up daily on the changes that are taking place. You know, it's like we just figured out the Facebook Live on Zoom, which congratulations, Mira, for getting us in so well. But you know, BeLive now has like a 4-person maximum, and I don't know, there's just a lot of pivoting going on. So I think as planners, for us to the best that we can to stay on top of that technology or bring in somebody that knows the technology is really going to help us serve our clients and keep us in the front running here.
For sure. Well, welcome, Linda, as well. And, you know, I just want to dive right in with I guess the most kind of urgent matter, and that's people, our clients of ours that have events scheduled for the time where it's probably not going to happen, and they have to deal with rescheduling or canceling their events. So if you wouldn't mind, just share maybe what you are seeing now, what you've helped your clients with when it comes to pushing the events out to maybe, I don't know, fall, spring. You can kind of tell me what you feel is the best sweet spot for right now. So it's not too early, so you don't have to reschedule it twice, I guess would be the whole idea. And, you know, then if there's anything that you've encountered with the hotels, like do they have to let you out of the contract, or is it better to reschedule versus cancel, or the other way around? Like, let's just kind of chat about some of those like really hot things that need to be dealt with really today. So Shay, if you want to start again with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of questions in there. And I'm sure we're all going to probably hit on some piece of it. But what I'm seeing from my clients is obviously March was, you know, either a pivot to straight virtual or a reschedule. Same thing for April. May definitely is, like, I've got clients that are going to do virtual. I have somebody that's moved to Q3 and Q4 is where a lot of my reschedules are going. If you are still looking to reschedule, I would highly recommend you do that now, because all of the dates are filling up really fast if they haven't already for a lot of the venues that are, you know, high in demand, right? Because everything's moved now. And then if you were already supposed to have an event in Q3, Q4, and you haven't locked in your contract, make sure that you definitely lock it in as soon as possible. Something to keep in mind is that all of the venues are bleeding, right? They're losing a lot of money. They're having to furlough their people. So the response time is a lot longer for them to get back to us, right? Whether that's a sales event, an enrollment, or a fulfillment event, retreat, anything along those lines. Definitely stay in contact with them and love on them, right? Because they're your partner. And you want to be like, how are you? How are your family? How is things? Like, are you having to go and clean the rooms? A lot of my sales and catering people are taking on other people's jobs in order to still have money coming in for their own family, right? So keep that in mind when you're connecting with them. For right now, a lot of your contracts, if it was supposed to happen in April, you're in a force majeure, meaning if you wanted to cancel, you could. But, you know, live events will never completely die. I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but my fiance, who goes into the office every single day, after the first week and a half, was going, wow, I really miss the people that I interact with every single day. And this just goes to show you that live events will never die. They're just kind of napping right now.
I agree with that for sure. And I think that people may actually come out of this so hungry for the in-person interaction that instead of you know, the virtual being the next new, we may just snap not even back to where we were, but it may be even bigger and better because the hunger of, you know, for interaction. So Sherry, anything to add to this question as far as what you're seeing right now that are the kind of the you know, problems that people have to deal with right now, and some ideas on how to deal with the situation?
Yeah, I just want to kind of recap what Shay said about how I think live events will come back, you know, because people they're stuck at home and it's like cabin fever. And those that loved going to live events before are going to want to, they're even going to love it more because they're like, oh, now I can get out, because most of who we serve are in the entrepreneurial industry anyway. So I don't want to use the words they're stuck at home with their family, right? We're all at home with our family, but we always teach them that to be with other like-minded people. So when they're at home with their families are not really understanding their personal struggles that they're having with their businesses right now. So they're seeking who they can go out to as soon as this comes back and cannot wait to get in front of them. So I think what I'm pivoting right now is helping my clients stay in front of their clientele, letting them know that they're still here, that they still care, that they're relevant, that they can help them out with their businesses, just trying to make sure that they know that they can still rely on them. So whether that is through a virtual event or a webinar or a live stream in their own Facebook right now, just saying, hey, or picking up the phone and giving them a call, like DeANNA was talking about this a couple of weeks ago when we got together, how it's super important to stay in touch. So that's kind of what I'm working with my clients right now. One of them had an event in May and they went to where they're going to have to do virtual. So they tested it with a Discovery Day virtual last week, which I helped them with. And it was a great way for them to stay in touch with their people. And their people were so excited because they were within chat. And they were, you know, just going back and forth in chat and in the breakout rooms. And they're like, oh, I can't wait to see you again. And it was also another great way for them to get in front of other people that they wouldn't have been able to get in front of before, because they're like, what are you doing in your industry? So that's another thing that I'm trying to strategically plan with my clients, is find ways that you can get in front of others now, so that when your live event comes back again, you'll have more people who want to come because you were relevant to them through these hard times. So that's one thing. In regards to hotel contracts and force majeure, yeah, just like Shay said, anything that's happening in April, even May, you can rely upon your force majeure contract clause. I have a really good one I use for my clients that there was no doubt that they could use it because it talked about diseases and things and travel restrictions, and it allowed them to just like, okay, no problem. I think the big thing too is relationships. Like Shay said, you know, hotels, especially as independent planners like we are, we want to continue building those relationships. So I'm trying to pick up the phone and reach out to my hotel people that I talk with throughout the year and say, how are you doing?
Yeah.
How can I help you? Because they're going to remember that. And right now, quite frankly, they are cleaning rooms. They are taking reservations over the phone because of furlough. So they're dealing with so much more than we could ever think that they would be dealing with, just so that they could keep their hotel running and their families fed. So, reaching out to them. And then I think Carol was telling us on a call DeANNA had the other week of how if you're working with rebooking a client right now, the hotel may be able to give you a little extra just so that they don't lose that business.
Yep.
And I agree 100% with that, because I actually did that without even thinking, because they even asked me the question, like, look, so we don't lose this, what can we do to keep the contract going, and none of us know when this is going to go back. We're just waiting and watching like everyone else, but I think it's probably going to be mid to late summer before we feel comfortable enough to say to a client, it's okay to have an event in the summer. A lot of what my clients are doing, or they're just waiting. Most of them are fall and spring of next year, but because of how their events go throughout the year, the ones in 2021, they're waiting too to really physically sign a dotted line, because they don't know if they have to shift those dates to accommodate their fall. So, it's a matter of just staying out in front of their clients and having us help them and remind them in ways of doing that. And that's kind of what I'm pivoting right now on.
Awesome. How about you, DeANNA?
So I was just to add to what Shay and Sherrie said, one of the things that you also should take into account is proximity of where these events were being held out. So like, for example, if your events were being scheduled in Vegas, obviously Vegas is shut down. Like, so, I mean, like for me to even get to one of our hotels, there's one person, and like what I think Sherrie mentioned, that person was our sales contact, but that person's also doing laundry. Like he was telling me the other day that he was in the laundry room doing laundry, right? And so they are doing all kinds of jobs. But the coolest part about that is that, yeah, it is taking a little bit longer for response time, but they're so excited to keep our business. They really want that business. So like I'm seeing with our clients all the way through June right now. Now I haven't been able to really push July's yet, but anything up until June, we've been able to like either get out of completely or switch. And I've been really pushing our clients to just move the dates, because to me, I agree with everyone on here, that pendulum is about to go back, and everybody is going to want to be, they want to see people, they want to network, they want to be at live events. People love live events. And to be frank, that's where they do their business. That's where they get their clients. That's where they network and get affiliates. And so it's going to come back. So it's just a matter of just shifting that a little bit and getting those new dates. And I have found, and especially with like Vegas, if you have any properties in like the Vegas area where it's just completely shut down, they're willing to do anything to keep those things on the books, right? They want your business and they're willing to work with you. So if you come in with like that servant's heart, rather than coming in just really being aggressive, you don't need to be aggressive. They're all having a really bad day. Like come in with a servant's heart and just say, how can I work with you to make this a win for my client, for you and your company, and make that work? And I guarantee you, you'll get a ton more than what you even thought. Like we had literally one, now this is an example, I won't say what it was, but the original contract was the room, it was $289. It was at 80% attrition. And then what else was it? We added, we had an F&B that was fairly high for this property. So we came back and we're like, we need to move this from June. We want to move it to October. We feel like October's safe. This is a good time. They moved it, no penalty, no nothing. They dropped our room rate down to $99. So everyone's going to be excited about that. They dropped our food and beverage, and they threw in free coffee, and they gave us a $5,000 allowance towards a reception. Done. Sign it, move on, and go to the next client. But like, so you can get so much more, and the hotels are really, really wanting to work with you. So leverage that. But again, go in with a servant's heart. Be there to help them and support them. They're having just as bad of luck as you are, then probably worse, because they don't know what's tomorrow, really. Like we can still pivot and do things with our businesses, but that is their industry. So, really work with them. I am seeing where the contracts are getting shifted all the way through the end of June. And I feel like you probably should. That's just my opinion. But right now, even if it ends at the end of May, let's say that people are going to still be a little bit hesitant to travel just for a little bit, not for long, but it could impact sales. And what you don't want to do is set up your client to not have a successful event. So what we've been doing is transitioning those events to new dates for like Q4, typically end of Q3 and in Q4. The problem is everyone's doing Q4. So I think Shay, you mentioned it earlier. You got to get those dates in there, like plug them in, and then just add just add the clause into the contract that you have the right to move it, because you may move it again, but at least get those dates in there, or go in and get a first right of refusal to where you have those dates locked in, and if someone else comes in, they have to at least notify you before they release that space. So there's, that, but definitely do that. And then you go back to your client and go, now, we've got your event moved from June to October. Now, to keep your attendees engaged, let's do a virtual event, right? And so now you're doing the best of both worlds. They're keeping their clients engaged with the virtual event, knowing full well that that event is still scheduled. It's still going to be there. It's just paused for a little bit, right? Yeah. But it's still there. And then doing this virtual event. We had, I don't know, Sherry, if you were on a call with us last week or not, but there was one client that had a live event, real estate based in Dallas, Texas, and they had,
Yeah, I remember you telling me that story.
Yeah, so 80 people were supposed to come to this live event. It was a paid real estate live event, and she had to cancel it. She had to pause it and move it, transition it, right? And so she decided to go ahead and do it virtual. She did it virtual. She ended up with 1,900 on the video call. So she did it with Zoom. She did a virtual training. She had her breakout. She did everything that she would have done had it been live. It felt great. She had 1,900 instead of 80. So tell me that is not serving her community, building up that community, keeping that community intact. I guarantee you now she'll probably have more sales for the actual live event when it comes around. So just, think about that. Like, that's to me what we're pushing our clients is doing the virtuals in the meantime while you pause and while you transition. So it takes both, I think, to really make that work. And right now, people just are craving this FaceTime. They want to see everyone. They're like, I just want to see you. I want to virtually hug you and get in there. So, let them have that, but move that date and make sure that you have that to where it covers you.
Awesome. And Linda?
Yeah, so I concur with all of my fellow planners here. The only thing that I would add is playing a little bit here with my two clients that are in the medical field. They have a 4-6 month. They're calling it the 4-6. So 4 months hits June, and that's where they anticipate that we'll hit that curve, and we'll start to see the less based on what's happened in other countries. But their concern is the 6th part of it, the 4-6. What happens is August is the 6th month, and they're pretty much anticipating that we're going to still be in some sort of it might be where you can go out in your community. If your community has had low numbers, that they might release by community that, okay, LA hasn't had any new cases or deaths in 2 weeks, so, we can allow groups of 50, because the concern is that all the people that are atypical, carrying, maybe have low grades of the virus or don't even know that they have the virus, all converge in everything public in summer, because what do we all do? The beach, the swimming pools, the river, the parks, the amusement parks, close proximity. There's concern that everybody will just go out in mass, and then we'll have a fall repeat because it hasn't completely cleared through the system. So that's just so keep that in mind. That's what I keep in mind when I'm talking to clients about pushing their dates and doing new contracts. And DeANNA, you said it best in that have that extra clause, 1 or 2 clauses in the contract that states, okay, we're going to do an August event or a July event or a September event, but we want a clause that if we're still in the situation, we have the first right to move that to another date. And most of the hotels I'm finding are, they get it, they understand. They just want to know that the business is coming back so that they have something to be able to, you know, put on their books and be able to figure out how they're going to do their staffing.
I did want to add one thing, Mira, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I wanted to add one thing. If you're doing an event and you've already, like, obviously we all run events and we have event insurance, right? So the one thing that I will try to remind people to do, because they're probably going to forget. So if you're out there running an event, and let's say you did have that event insurance for the event in May, you may forget to go ahead and get that insurance policy again if you moved it out to October. But right now is that time to make sure it's being done, because you need to still have yourself covered and that event needs to be covered. So I know it seems really small, but in the big scheme of things, that's really huge to have that insurance policy for your events to make sure that that's transition, especially right now with the unknown, like Linda said, you could have another fall pandemic. We don't know. We have no idea what this looks like. So to me, insurance is just as important as that hotel contract, right? So when you get that hotel contract and it's booked, then the next call should be is to the insurance carrier, making sure that that event is being covered by the insurance. Because then if something does happen and let's say the hotel doesn't, then you kind of have your insurance to kind of back you up. So I hated to kind of throw that in there, but it is important that you really make sure that your event insurance is going hand in hand with your hotel contracts right now.
And that's actually because that led me to my next question. So this is great. My next question for you, all of you, was what can people put in their contract in case it does happen again, that maybe now the hotels are forced to reschedule because there is the nationwide pretty much shutdown, or at least every major city has the 10 people or less thing. So they kind of have to do it. But what if in September they don't have to, but something like what Linda is describing will happen? Can you put something in the contract specifically for this COVID-19 pandemic? If it doesn't work, that they will move it again to a future date, even if it's not mandated by the state, city?
You can absolutely do that. And I would say, oh, I'm sorry, Shay. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to jump. I was just going to say, you can absolutely do that, Mira, but you also, what they're doing right now, and I don't know, ladies, if y'all are seeing this across the board, but they're taking the force majeure clause out of the contracts.
Yep.
And I noticed 3 that came across my desk last week that came in, and I was like, wait, where did that go? So pay attention. They're doing that. So go ahead, Shay, but I was going to say, be careful about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great that we all kind of just probably pop in on this one, because I'm depending on the hotel, if it's one of the big chains or if it's a smaller boutique one, they'll let you put certain things into the contracts, right? So I put it in there, I send it back to them, and sometimes they'll let me say pandemic, sometimes they'll let me say, you know, the travel clause, sometimes they won't. So what are you ladies seeing?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think as long as you have something, you know, try to ask for all of it. You know, right before this started happening, I was negotiating a contract for February 2021, and it was with one of the chains out there that's not so easily acceptable to clauses. I won't name that chain, but I'm like, I you know, they had a 1-sentence force majeure clause in there, and I'm like, no, I know mine's about 20 sentences long. Let's meet somewhere in the middle. And I always try to warn my clients that you just, you know, that's the thing. If anyone's watching this that are like, I could do a contract myself. If a clause is not in there, it doesn't mean it's a good thing. It means it's a bad thing, because then you don't have anything to rely upon. So like DeANNA pointed out, look for the force majeure. They call it impossibility clause too. So it's either an impossibility clause or a force majeure clause, but something in there that just says, you know, in my opinion, it should say something along the lines of government controlled situations. If you can't have pandemic, if you can't have travel, if it's government controlled, then I believe if we're in a situation that Linda said, when summer comes and, you know, the government's still controlling, and then also have something to do with the performance. So if your attendees are in different areas, like DeANNA said with Las Vegas, and you've got a majority of your attendees that are coming from a different state where their travel restrictions are still in play and they can't get out and about, that's going to affect your performance. So if you've got a percentage of your performance being affected by this come summer, and you still can't have it, but they, you know, they're not going to be as lenient as they have to be right now because they're forced to, then that's what I would say, you know, is making sure of that. And then going back to what DeANNA said with event insurance, making sure that if you have to cancel, you've got something to help you with your revenue. But yeah, definitely have something. A third clause that I would suggest is something that I try to get in every single one of my contracts that I've been doing for 15 years, and that is a rebooking clause. So, you know, just putting that in there. The way that I have it, 9 times out of 10, I'll get it the way I want it. And sometimes I won't. The way that I want it, of course, is if for any reason I have to rebook this event and I have to pay a cancellation fee. If I rebook it immediately, there's no cancellation fee. Or they'll come back and they'll say, well, if you rebook it within 6 months, or if you rebook it within the calendar year, some will say, you have to pay the 50% or whatever the cancellation fee is, but I'll apply it as a deposit. Whatever you can get it. Yeah. Because that is also an important clause that nobody really ever thinks of having.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I've had to actually utilize that in the past years for somebody that had to, you know, cancel or move their event, and we had the clause in there, so then it made it so they didn't lose all of that money, because it can be pretty pricey.
That's
awesome. Have any of you guys noticed any of the contracts verbiage being changed after it was sent to you? So I just wanted to address that. So if you're not using an event coordinator like one of these ladies here, and you're trying to do these events on your own, and you're trying to do contracts on your own, please, please, please make sure that you're paying attention to the verbiage, because what they send to you in that initial proposal may have all this verbiage in it, and it may look really great, but you may sign it. And I've been really careful, even more so now than ever, that when that countersign, that verbiage is exactly what I signed. They cannot change that verbiage. And I have found doesn't happen a lot. It happened last year to 2 different clients, but the verbiage got changed. So be very careful. I mean, obviously every one of the ladies on here is a pro, so they do that, but I'm talking to the audience out there that if this is something that you're doing and you're trying to do this on your own, I beg you to please, you know, watch the verbiage of a contract that comes back to you, and make sure that from what you signed to that countersign that comes back to you, nothing has changed in that verbiage. Because what we will see is not people being tricky, but people being a little bit more creative in their writing and copying. And so let's just be aware of that as these things play out, that what you agree to and what they officially sign and send back, those things need to match.
Yeah. I just want to add in real quick, ladies. The other clause to be aware of and to be thinking about is, and Shay, you said it best when you first started off the conversation about the relationships that we have with the hotels, and that they're all pulling and doing double duty. Some of our smaller boutique hotels might, depending on the backing and financial backing that they have, they might have some staffing issues, and they might run into some problems when they come back. So one of the things that I've also been looking at is a relocation and or rebook as part of the rebooking clause, is what happens if a boutique hotel especially doesn't have staff enough to bring it back online. So you do a contract for October or November, but they have laid off and let off so many people, and they are hurting financially. And so when it comes time for that fall event, are they really ready for you to come back? Do they have the staffing? Are their restaurants open? Are there, is their spa open? Is there market open? What are they doing in those kind of contexts too? So just something to kind of be thinking about with them as well. So we've added in relocation clauses to the extent that the hotel is unable to perform or be able to have the group on site based on their own, financial situations and things like that, that also gives us the opportunity to continue to rebook and to bounce it to another date.
That's awesome. Hey, so the next question I have is, I think DeANNA already shared one example, but if you wouldn't mind, maybe share one example of what you can actually ask for, because it sounds like you can actually get really great value for your clients now. And I would love to know kind of, price per room, or for the ballrooms, or is there still some big room block type thing happening, or can you get away with actually getting the ballroom without a room block, things like that. But yeah, share with us maybe one quick case study with one of your clients that you got a really good deal for.
Yeah, you can ask for anything. The worst thing they're going to say is no. Right? So, I mean, I've had my attrition waived for the room block, right? I've asked for that and it's happened. I tend to not like paying for room rental, and I'd rather have a higher food and beverage because of the perceived value and the actual value you get to have at the event. So I pretty much always do that. It has no room rental, have at least an 80% attrition on my room block. Sometimes I can get 70 for some cases. But right now, yeah, I've been asking for no attrition.
Cool. Sherry?
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I go back and I actually get them to actually lower the room block. So typically when you are looking for a larger ballroom, they're like, well, we need a room block. Their reasonings behind it. We won't go into that right now. But I think mainly because the fact that we don't know if we're going to get the full attendance that we have been able to get before. That's where the fear for our clients are coming into play of, I know I still want to have events, but is everyone going to show up? So, we're going back and we're asking for the room block to be lower than it was. But having what Shea said with just them waiving the attrition altogether, me personally, I think they would prefer to lower the room block numbers versus the attrition altogether, because then they could put them back out in inventory and sell it for a higher price. So it's up to the hotel. Maybe we ask for either one, right? We go on all in and say, look, we'll keep the same, but waive the attrition because that's for our benefit. But if they're like, I don't know about that, then say, well, okay, let's lower the room block in anyway, and then you get more back in your inventory. So that's one. The other is, what DeANNA mentioned earlier of being able to get a credit towards a reception. We had this actually happen in our February event this year, where I was asking for whatever I can get. So it's always asking about something that doesn't physically cost them money in labor, and something that is easier for them to make up in another way. They're more inclined to say yes to. Now, yeah, ask for whatever you can, but for me, it's all about relationships. So it's having that personal conversation with your sales rep and saying, look, this is what my client is looking for. I always try to play the client being the bad guy sometimes on my end, because I want them to say, well, they want the world. So what can you and I do together to make it a win-win for both? And then say, well, Sherry, I can't do that, but we can do this. Then my clients are all for that, because whatever they can walk away with more ROI on their end, the better. And then it also makes the client feel like they're getting something, and it makes the hotel feel like they didn't lose out too much because it didn't really cost them anything. So always look for something that's not really going to cost them a whole lot in revenue on labor is what they're going to be saying yes to.
Perfect. And how about you, Linda? You got any case study and fun story about how you got a great contract?
Yeah, so a couple of things that we've been doing over here is we've been doing split contracts. So we have the meeting space and catering as one contract, and then we have rooms on a separate contract. And that way we've been able to do lower, going at 10, 20 rooms per night rather than doing the 30, 40, 50 rooms per night. And we're paying a little bit higher on the food and beverage end of it, but it's okay because they don't have the guarantee on the rooms.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's cool. Awesome. So I want to transition real quick because we have 12 minutes left. So I want to transition into virtual summits. So if each of you can share a little bit about maybe, strategies, and we can kind of bounce back and forth if you prefer. So we're not repeating the same thing 4 times, but, maybe lead time, if somebody is, creating a new one, yes or no kind of recommendation on people that had live one scheduled and just want to move it into virtual possibly. And then one of you or some of you, I would like to also hear possibly like offer structuring. So not necessarily the timelines, but can you sell the exact same thing on virtual, or do you need to adjust your thing? So you don't have to answer all of those questions at the same time, but I just want to open this up as a kind of discussion for all of you to chime in on those points.
Yeah, so I had, so in California, on Friday the 13th, as when the governor was like, okay, no more events over, 10 or something people. And I was in the midst of planning on Tuesday an event for 400 women.
Wow.
Right? So obviously it shifted. It went virtual. It still happened on Tuesday. But thankfully the client had already been doing a lot of things online and she had an incredible sales team. But what you have to consider is it's now a longer process, right? So your time frames are going to be different. When you're doing a live event, you've got them with you from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen online, right? So you've got to shorten your times. And there's also the possibility of them having to go walk the dog, or the children are coming in and all of these other distractions. So you have to think through, how are we going to keep people engaged in the time that we have them? And if it is a sales enrollment event, what worked really well for my client was she ended up making some form of the offer every single day, right? So day one was a little bit of a softer offer, had some testimonials, did some video, and then opened it up for Q&A. She also had an amazing sales and enrollment team to support her, that she said, you know what, we've got 2 programs. You've got to talk to one of my coaches in order to see what is going to be the best fit. So she didn't actually make a price online. She didn't say the price online because it depends on where they were in their business, okay? And then day 2 is kind of the normal offer day. Day 3, she also continued an offer every single day. But that was the live event portion. She then took a day off, had a watch party for the another 3 days, had another day off, and then did it on demand. So what a 3-day event used to be just 3 days is now a couple of weeks long, and it's still continuing on. Now, granted, in person, she was probably going to hit her numbers around 1.2, 1.4 million. But so far, now that we've closed at the end of March, she's probably around 800 plus K in her event, right? It's still not her numbers, but still a fantastic pivot considering it was that fast. But yeah, you have to change the structure and how you interact with the attendees. And hers was simple. You can go really big, but hers was Zoom webinar into a Facebook group live streaming.
Perfect.
So we do it a little different, Shay, which is interesting because I've seen a ton of people doing it that way, where they're shortening it to like 4 to 6 hours. And one of the things that we are doing is we're going kind of the opposite. So this is kind of a fun split test, Shay. We should see how this works. This is kind of fun. Ours, we're actually doing as if it were at the live event. We want you to feel like you're there. So ours starts with the same exact, like we have the web page built where this is your itinerary and this is how this is going to be. These are the sessions, and you click here to go to these sessions, and we have a virtual lunch with the speakers. We're asking you to go grab your lunch, sit in front of the computer, do live Q&As with the speakers. We're doing the same exact thing. Instead of a reception, we're doing virtual wine with the different speakers and different celebrity guests. And same thing, come together with us at X time, and we're all, whether there's 200-300 of us on there, and we're all drinking wine, or whether we're having our dinner or whatever. So it's still a reception. And what you can do during those things is you can send like a bottle of wine to all the speakers that are going to be there hosting that reception for you. And so then, you kind of can make it fun, right? And then the same exact thing as if they were at the live event, if you were going to be giving them pass out, seat drops or things like that, then we can post in real quickly on the page when those things get, grab your seat drop right now, or we may email it. That email just went out like 30 minutes ago. Now you have your seat drop. So you can kind of play with what you're doing to make it feel, because I think it goes both ways. I agree with Shay. I think people need space. They can't spend the whole day, but then some people do. If they've already locked it on their calendar and like, oh, I'm given these 2 days for this event, I'm in, let me have it, and dive in. So I think you can do it both ways. I think it's just a matter of preference, right? But like for ours, we are doing it. We're doing one next week, and it's literally from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. And the sessions are staying the same. The lunches are staying the same. You're just eating your own sandwich and you know, with everybody else. And the virtual reception is we're sending out wine to all of the different people to join with us and have toast and, you know, kind of meet and greet with the speakers. And virtual roundtables, you can do the same thing, because you can randomly push people into the different breakout rooms on Zoom and do roundtable discussions. So you can play around with the different platforms you have, but I think it's just a matter of getting with your client and seeing what their outcome is and what they're wanting for their client base, and then just be creative and fun with it. Don't think that you have to be stuck in this box, or this is how your Zoom experience has to be. Like, be fun and be creative with it.
Awesome. Sherry?
Yeah, I agree 100% with both DeANNA and Shay. It really is all about the outcome of what your client wants it to be, right? So if your client is all about sales, you have to be realistic with them and make them realize that you don't want it to feel salesy through the whole time either, because then you're going to lose people a lot faster than you would at a live event. You know, so you have to walk them through. The job of someone like ourselves is to walk them through the logistical end of it, like you know, we're going to be positive, like DeANNA was like, all these awesome things that you can do. But logistically, one of the challenges that my other client have right now, where we're working on our live event in May, we're like, we want to ship out all this stuff to them so that they would have it in a hand time, but they're not in our offices. So logistically, you have to make sure that you have their proper mailing addresses. So you have to make sure that you do all of these things, that if you want them to have something physical, you have the right address to ship that to, or figure out a way to get it to them digitally. Like, you know, we wanted to ship them because we provide them meals throughout the day. So we wanted to like ship them snacks and things like that. But we're like, well, how are we going to be able to get that? We're having the challenge of trying to get it from Amazon and then get it to the right shipping address. Well, you could do it virtually. Send them virtual gift cards through Grubhub or something like that. So there, you know, it's a mind shift of logistical ways, because virtual is very different from live and how you get things to them physically. And then the other logistical part of the challenge we had last week was time zone. So when they come to the event, right, they're flying in to a single time zone. We're all in the same time zone in a live event. When you're virtual, no, you're dealing, especially if you've got international folks, you're dealing with all kinds of time zones. So it's a matter of, you can't please everyone. So come up with something that the majority of the people that you need to have on the call can attend, and then work it around that part. And then, you know, go from there and there. And like Shay said, you can't treat it as though if the event is 3 days, you can't treat it that it's going to be the same 3 days. You could do what DeANNA said, as long as it's interactive and they have an opportunity to be together in chats and breakout rooms and things like that, great. But because they are at home with their families, most of them, they're going to have kids barging in. Mom, Dad, I'm hungry, feed me. Or they're going to have noises going on, dogs barking out the window, lawn services going on, you know, life happening. So they're going to get distracted much easier on virtual than they would live. So you have to make it more interactive and fun for them to not want to leave. And the last thing I'll leave with is making sure that they know what's to come. Don't hide it like you would at a live event. A lot of my clients, they don't want to let the attendees know what's happening, because then they'll book something else and not be there in that session. It's different with a virtual event. You have to let them know up front what's to be expected so that they don't miss it. They're like, oh, I know I want to have that. So I'm going to block that time frame out on my schedule. Kids, leave. You cannot come in the room at this time because I don't want to miss this. So those are the things that you have to think through and put yourself in their shoes.
That's awesome. This is some really awesome tips. How about you, Linda? You have anything to add?
Yeah, actually, I wrote down while you guys were talking, the attendee experience. 2 things that come to mind. One is you're not going to have as many people. You typically will not have as many people show up on your virtual as you do live. So you have to expand that reach. So if you want 100 people on your virtual, you kind of need 150, because I'm seeing anywhere from, I'm seeing about a 40% no-show from people that have registered for the virtual, but they'll pop in and they'll pop out. So it's not a real solid, we haven't been able to really track the numbers yet. It's not been long enough to really kind of see what's happening, but just what we've seen so far. But people will come in and come out. So anything that you can do ahead of time to really let them know this is why you want to be engaged. And these are tools. I even have a client that we went so far as like, here's all the things that you're going to need to do your vision board. And you need tape and magazines and this and that, you know, and that went out. Be prepared. We're doing vision board at this time on this date. And also we even did, the first day is Mexican food, the second day is Italian food, and the third day is Chinese food. So find the Uber Eats in your area and Uber Eats, order your food so that we're all eating Mexican together, we're all eating Chinese together, and we're all eating Italian together. And I thought that was really a lot of fun, and people have the option to do that or not. But then it also, the idea behind that is, you know, we're supporting here, support your community too. And, you know, the more that we expand and give and spend, even though, you know, a lot of us don't have it, and we're tighter than we were, but even if we do that and we get our audience to do that and our clients get their audience to do that and we keep the economy going and we push it out, that expands that energy and expands the money. And I don't know if I'm getting a little woo here, but it helps, and it makes it fun. Like you were saying, DeANNA, about having the wine reception and sending out wine and doing things like that. Plus, what makes me really excited is this is a way to get people's addresses, folks. This is a way to get people's telephone numbers. This is a way to get more about your attendee than you ever could get before. And so I see send out cards coming back. I see, you know, some direct mailing pieces going to really help us coming in fall. And the biggest thing for me is the expansion of reach, because people just think about this. When we go back live and we're in person, how many more people are now going to want to be on that monetized live stream experience for the clients because they can't make the event, but now they know that they can participate live stream. So that's just going to even make that piece of our marketing for our clients and for our clients' reach even bigger. So just, and I like the short and I like the idea of doing it all day, but the shortened days, a 6-hour day seems to be at least what I'm finding clients can really manage, is they can set aside 6 hours for the live event with, you know, like a 5-minute bio break and a 30-minute lunch, and, you know, have people continuing. But anything that we can do and convince our clients to do ahead of time to let them know, you know, this person's going to speak at this time, we're having this special at this time, training is at this time, is going to help the attendance. And send out, you know, hire your teenage daughter to watch the smaller kids for this time period, you know, give her a bonus that she gets 3 extra hours of quiet time in her room, or, you know, she can Zoom her friends. I don't know, just anything that we can think of that's very creative during this time frame.
Awesome. And so I'll be running out of time here. So I want to ask you one quick last question. Live events versus virtual events. Same price, higher, lower? What is kind of the scoop on pricing virtual events?
Are you talking like an attendee ticket, or
I mean,
if you're making offer?
Yeah, if the tickets cost $9.97 to go live, would it be $9.97 on virtual, or are you trying to get more people into the virtual and then maybe have some back-end offers and other ways to make up for it, versus charging the full ticket price? Because obviously now you don't really have all the overhead since you're not doing the physical event. So if the price is based partially on overhead, could it be lower, or is there a benefit of keeping it at the same price point, you know, as a more of a revenue generating thing?
I think it depends on the event, right? If you're going to be doing a smaller mastermind event, that's going to be a more high ticket price. If you're going to do an introductory sales enrollment event, you could take a look at a $27, $97, because your goal is to have as many eyeballs on the space, right? So I think it depends. We're playing with a tiered. So then we've got our VIP experiential, that's going to be a higher price point, and they're going to get, you know, fun things in the mail. that, you know, they wouldn't get otherwise, or they're going to get some extra special time with the coach. In terms on the back end, the sales side of it, I'm seeing a shift. So either changing the program offering slightly, or decreasing it, or having some type of gamification to keep people engaged with the event, where they could win $2,000 that they can apply towards one of your program offerings type of thing.
Cool. Sherry?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the big thing to answer your overall question is I don't believe it should be the same exact price as live. Because after all, when people do live events and they're live streaming anyway, they usually charge that live stream ticket price a lot lower than the live. So, you know, you take that into account as well. But if it is a high-end program, if it's not your live event, but it's a high-end program that you're doing, then yeah, the ticket price should match it. But no, I don't think the price overall should be the same as a live event because it's different. But then you can add in all of these little extras that people would want to pay. You just have to look at it differently. So everything is just a shift, a mindset shift on this.
For sure. And I'm still thinking that there are a lot of people now in a situation where they just will not be able to afford $1,000 tickets to a live event. So do you want to totally eliminate those people, or do you want to help them in a way of either having free or low price tickets for virtual events? So I guess it depends on the strategy, sounds like. So DeANNA, your take on that? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I do agree with Shay and Sherry. I think it really depends on your audience and your client base, but I do think right now with the pandemic and everything going on, I think the price should be lower so that you can continue to reach to more and be more of a giver and in the giving, you know, spirit right now. So I do think that there's room for us to all be giving back. So I think part of that is dropping that pricing, giving more of our content and education out there to more people while they're stuck at home. And then, you know, then we get back into the swing of things a little bit later, and then we go back to what we were normally doing. But right now, I think we should all be kind of looking at that piece and saying, how can we give back to the community? And if it means dropping prices and letting more people on, that's what we should be doing.
Perfect. And I think that's actually really, if you think about it, you can build bigger lists during this time. So when you do another next live event, you have much bigger database to market to and more people to attend. Linda?
Yeah, I agree with the ladies, and I really think that's key, that last point, in that use this time to expand your reach, be in coming from a giving heart and really realizing that everything that we do now that lays out as a gift is going to come back tenfold in the future, and you're going to engage with people, build relationships. And, you know, I would rather have 100 people on at $47 that are engaging with my client and who are going to be, you know, able to, you know, buy a 6-month program with them that's a virtual 6-month program to get them started, to pivot, to get them what they need. And then at the end of that 6 months, go into a longer, you know, year-long program or something to that effect, where you can add in the retreats and the live components back in. I've even had a couple clients where it's like $47 for your general ticket, $197 for VIP, and you get the 90 minutes before the general comes in is your VIP time with the host. And then at the end of the day, you know, there's some extra time with the host, so it's kind of built in like that. Yeah, just for me, it's really using this time to connect, expand, bring in guest speakers, bring in people that you maybe didn't think about bringing in before because, you know, they were too costly or you didn't have the time to do it. You've got time now because, and that engagement process leading up to the 3-day, that's perfect for bringing in extra components and having extra days. So you can have a special 90-minute interview with, you know, your panel ahead of the event, and they can still be at the panel. There's a lot of different things that can be done to keep engagement.
Awesome.
And I love anything that's gamified, anything that's fun, anything that, you know, I'm going to end with this in that I keep thinking of the at-home mom, the moms who have at-home businesses and now they have their kids at home. And how do they, you know, if they've got little ones, then how, you know, who used to be at daycare, then how can they spend 6 hours or 8 hours a day at a virtual event that they need to be to for their business? So what kind of things can, you know, what kind of help can you offer your audience? Like really know your audience right now, and what does your audience need, and how can you support your audience?
Hey, Linda, I know that DeANNA needs to jump, and I would like for you, all of you, to give you the opportunity to share your information, because I love what Sherry said about the good cop, bad cop, and if you're negotiating your own contract, you can't be the bad cop. You're gonna be the person asking for all that stuff. And secondly, with all this paperwork and the contract stuff, I really feel like right now it's more important than ever to have an event planner on your team. And most of you guys probably, or ladies, let people on different levels in. So I'm sure that you have a maybe service where you just help them with the contract, and then a service where you actually help them plan the event and stuff. So DeANNA, since you have to run, would you mind sharing your information if somebody wants to get in touch with you for any of the levels of services that you provide?
Yes, of course. So you can find me on Facebook. Also, we have the Boost Events and Sponsor Association Facebook post and page that you can find us on. You can also email me directly at DeANNA@digitalmarketer.com. So DeANNA at DeANNA@digitalmarketer.com. And again, a Facebook group. I'm just here to serve you guys. Love this community. I'm glad that Mira's putting it together. So thank you so much.
Thanks, DeANNA. Appreciate you. All right, Shay.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shay, SHAY, at ShayWheat, WHEAT.com. Or if you wanted to schedule a time just to see where you're at, where you're going, what your next best steps are, take a look at eventsarepowerful.com. And that's the best way to get on my calendar, and we can review contracts that you have or any questions that you have, or, you know, how do we gamify something? Happy to be of service and support.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Shay. And Sherry?
Yeah, so they can email me at Sherrie, SHERRIE, at slseventplanning.com, or if they go to slseventplanning.com and there's an application process, we can jump on a discovery call, talk through what your needs are right now, how you want to strategize for the future, and be happy to help out, because right now we all need to be, we're in this together and we're here to serve.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sherry. And Linda?
They can reach me at lindacainoffice@gmail.com, and that's Linda, and the last name is CAIN, so Linda Cain Office at Gmail. They can also just do Linda Cain Office for Calendly, and they can get my schedule that way. And they can text free 45 at 626-252-2834.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. And if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna actually send you a message to give me all this information in our group chat, and I'll be happy to post it with on the Facebook group and also in the podcast notes when this goes live. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your wisdom. There was a lot of great pieces of information. And for everyone that's watching or listening, I strongly encourage you to reach out to one of them, whoever you connected with the most or feel like would be a best match for your events, and have that conversation, do the consultation, because I know from my experience, a lot of people think they can't afford an event planner, but I know that every one of these ladies can save you way more money than with the hotels and the negotiating and putting in these clauses than you're gonna pay them probably by tenfold. So again, thank you so much. And just remember, implementation is the difference between success and failure. Go do something with the information you learned today. Otherwise, I just had an awesome conversation with a few awesome ladies, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So till next time, this is Mira for Knowledge to Profit.